It does this sometimes. It's coming. Okay, right, you should. Okay, right. Can you hear me now? I'm sorry if you couldn't hear me there at the beginning. Okay, thank you, Danielle. Great. Okay, apologies for that. The joys of live Zooms. Okay, I say normally what happens when I kind of click into Zoom is we have a little pre-record, test everything, and then hit live. It just went straight live for me this evening. So slight hiccup getting going. But anyway, sorry about that. Thank you so much for kind of bearing with and welcome. Now you can hear me, so I'll say it all again. My name's Nick here from Conservation Careers. I'm the founder and director. And I hope you're all safe and well during these slightly crazy COVID times that we've been having. Now, it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you and to introduce you to the Conservation Career Kickstarter. Okay, now you're all here because you might want to dedicate your working lives to conserving wildlife. And I salute you for that. Okay, you're very welcome. And I believe as a result, you deserve the best career support and training that we can offer to you. Now, the Conservation Career Kickstarter, which I'm going to talk about this evening in a bit of detail, okay, and give you lots of opportunity to ask questions as well about the course. It's designed to help you to get clear about your career options, okay, to put a plan in place for success and to get hired quicker as a result. Now, through the Kickstarter, okay, you'll get a detailed understanding of which jobs are right for you to focus on, okay. Number two, what gaps you need to fill in order to become really competitive and employable for your chosen niche or a chosen area, okay? And finally, as a bonus, we're going to teach you how to put in really good applications and how to deliver great interviews. Now, we've had over 1,500 students, or Kickstarters as we call them, through the course to date, and we're on version 2 at the moment. Okay, it's been running for 3 or 4 years now. So we keep refining, keep listening, and keep making it better and better, okay? Over the last year, we've also been helping students across 40 different universities to kind of go through the Kickstarter course as well. And we're really excited that you're considering and showing interest in the course. So thank you for coming along. Now is a great time to be considering working in wildlife conservation. Why is that, you might be asking? Well, as we start to kind of come out of this COVID crisis, fingers crossed, okay, we're seeing people from across the globe demanding a green recovery, as it's being called, a more sustainable future, okay, a more sustainable economy, a more sustainable development plan. And the world's governments seem to be listening, okay. So in the UK, where I'm sat right now, okay, the government has proposed £3 billion in funding for a green and resilient recovery. In Germany, they've gone way further. Okay, so the German government have pledged a green recovery fund with over £36 billion. And across the European Council as well, they've agreed a massive green recovery fund of £644 billion. Now, all this is going to translate into jobs. Okay, now, as a result, at Conservation Careers, we've already seen a large jump in jobs over the last year. Since the dip of the COVID crisis, really over a year ago, we've seen jobs now up over 50-60%, back to pre-COVID levels. Okay, so we're seeing new jobs flooding back into the market as well, and new roles being created. Even today, we saw that in the wider environment sector, the jobs are up about 40% on what we typically think of around this time of year. And advertisers, interestingly, actually reporting fewer applications per vacancy, which is a bit of a relief really for job seekers. You know, there's less competition right now in the market. So it's a really good time to be looking at work within conservation and related. Okay, and it's a perfect time to be considering enrolling in the Conservation Career Kickstarter, okay, which is what tonight's all about. Especially, I'll tell you a little bit more about the end about this. We have a special 33% discount on right now to help people like you to kind of join this green recovery movement, but that offer ends on Sunday. Okay, so I'll tell you a bit more about that at the end. So what we're going to do in this session, okay, we're going to do 3 things. First, I'm just going to give a super quick introduction to myself, my background, Conservation Careers. Okay, super quick. Then I'm going to do a real deep dive into the Kickstarter training program, what it is, how it works, you know, what's in it for you, how you'll benefit, what you can get out of it. Okay. And then when it's over to you guys, so I'm here to answer any questions you might have. If you're interested in considering enrolling in the course, you might have some questions, things you're not sure about, things you're not quite clear about, or something even related to the course and your career development. You know, we're here to help you and to support you this evening. I was going to stop there though before we kind of dive straight in. I'd love to kind of hear a little bit more about you guys and to hear where you're from, say hi. So let's just double check you can all hear me. If you can just say hi in the chat, that would be wonderful. So you can tell me like who you are and where you're from. So I'm Nick from the UK. It'd be lovely to hear where you are and where you're from as well. So name and place names. And while we're kind of thinking about doing that, I'd like to, if I can, like launch a poll, a super quick poll. Okay. There we go. Let's put that up there. So you should see a question in front of you. Okay, the question is, which best describes you? Okay, which type of person are you? Are you a student? So perhaps you're at university or a college or something like that, or even school possibly, considering, a career in conservation. You might be wondering, what your career looks like upon graduation. There's no better time really to start getting clear about your career options than now. This way you can use the time before you graduate to kind of fill any career gaps we identify, together, and to really hit the ground running upon graduation. Okay, you might be a job seeker as well. Let me share the results here as we're doing this as well. You might be a job seeker, and it looks like 36% of you are that. Okay, so you're a job seeker. So you're currently hunting for jobs right now, and you might be struggling. Okay, we'll walk you through the process of how to craft applications that make you stand out from the crowd and how to impress really in conservation interviews, plus kind of how to control nerves and all that sort of stuff. And then finally, you might be a career switcher, and that's the majority of you this evening. So welcome, 45% of you are career switchers. So if you've always had a passion, an interest in wildlife, you might be working in something totally unrelated right now, okay, but you need some clarity in order to know what the market looks like and what you need to do to get going, okay? We're here to help you understand the conservation job landscape, where you might fit in, especially with your lovely kind of transferable skills, and also how to form a plan of action to make your dream career a reality. Okay, well, thank you. And welcome, Patty. I can see a few names dropping in. Thank you, Marie. Mariana, thank you from Brazil. You're a PhD student in ecology. Welcome, welcome. Patty in the UK. I can see, I think that was Danielle. I can see the word Dan at the beginning there. You've been cut off. 23-year-old anthropology college student from Chicago, Illinois. Oh, and you like the podcast. Thank you very much. That's very kind. I'm glad you like that too. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, all of you. Thank you for joining. Right, so briefly about me, conservation careers, and let's talk about the Kickstarter course. Okay, so my name's Nick, as you probably realized by now. I'm sat here in the UK, okay, and I run conservation careers. Now, over the last 20 years, I've worked to conserve wildlife as a professional conservationist in the UK, but also internationally abroad, working across 120 countries, helping to raise projects and programs across those countries. And during my career, both within academic, public, private, charity, and enterprise sectors of a very diverse career to date, I've been asked many times, how do I get a job in wildlife conservation? And I felt there should be much better support for people like you who are seeking to work in wildlife conservation. And I also wanted to kind of start my own eco-enterprise, social enterprise. And as a result, 7 years ago, Conservation Careers was born. And it's really here to try and answer that kind of core question, how do I get a job in wildlife conservation, whether you're a student, a job seeker, or a switcher? Now, at Conservation Careers, we're here to help you to secure work in wildlife conservation. We're not here to glorify this sector, as a perfect job, which everyone should do. Our job really is to help to provide accurate, holistic, and effective support, which gets you hired quicker, okay? And we do this through three main ways, really. Firstly, it's training, which is what the Kickstarter is all about, okay? We spent 5 years, 6 years, nearly 7 years now, really, learning from and speaking to professional conservationists and careers advisors the world over, okay, to build the Kickstarter. To help you to get hired quicker. So firstly, that's training, I guess. We started off as workshops, then an online course, and now it's version 2 of our online course, which we're talking about here this evening. The second thing is opportunities. Okay, so we manage the world's biggest conservation job board on the internet. Okay, so we have over 12,000 jobs and volunteer and internship placements per year that go through the site, and that's still the tip of the iceberg in case of what's out there. We also have over 1,500 training courses across the site as well. And the third thing, training opportunities, is support. Okay, so we've published hundreds of career stories and advice articles and podcasts, and we can provide one-to-one support if that's what's needed in terms of CV, cover letter, interview preparation, that sort of stuff. We also run monthly free live training events as well, and all things related to starting and enjoying a successful career within wildlife conservation. You can keep an eye on the site as to when the next one is and what that's about. Now, we work with some of the biggest names in nature conservation around the globe to find new and talented staff also. And through all that, we've really got a great understanding of the sector, the market, and how to really find your niche and get going. And that's what the Conservation Careers Kickstarter is all about. So the Kickstarter, let's talk about that in detail. And that's what this is all about. The Kickstarter is for people who are looking to start your career in wildlife conservation, students, switchers, and seekers like you guys are. Now, conservation, it is a tough sector. Okay, it might be a great time right now, but it's still tough. Okay, I want to paint a really clear picture as to what it's like. There are more job seekers than ever before. Okay, I guess that's the bad news, but there are also more jobs than ever before, which is the good news. Okay, now it's not unusual for a really sexy, appealing conservation job to get dozens or even more applications. Okay, not necessarily typical, but that is, for a really appealing job, we can see a lot of applicants kind of coming in for that, particularly around areas like marine conservation and perhaps some science and research roles as well. But is it a hopeless cause? No, it's not. I mean, we wouldn't be here if it was a hopeless cause, right? Now let's kind of step back before we kind of go into the logic of how the course is built, okay, and the structures that are in there. Let's talk about what you need to do in order to get a conservation job and the steps you kind of need to go through. Now, the first step, you're kind of working from the end backwards, is really you need to have delivered a great interview. Impress an interview panel, showcase that you are a good fit and you can do the role to the required standard. Okay, so really need to have delivered a great interview to get that job offer, okay, which you accept. Stepping back from that, how do you get to interview? What do you need to do to get to that point? Well, for there, you need to have really submitted a great application that showcases you have the right qualifications, skills, and experiences for the specific role in question. Okay. Stepping back a little bit further from there, how do you even put that application together? How do you get the right qualifications, skills, and experiences for that specific role? Well, for that, you really need to have found your niche within the sector, okay? The place where you'll be happiest and have greatest impact as well. It's a huge, diverse, and expanding sector, a bewildering sector, really, okay? Really exciting, but finding your niche, finding the sweet spot allows you to develop the qualification, skills, and experiences in order to become fully employable. But how do you find your niche? Okay, and we'll talk a bit more about this in a minute. In order to find your niche, you really need to have done, I think, two things fairly well. Okay, first, you need to understand yourself. Okay, it's all about introspection and knowing yourself. What are you good at? What do you love doing? Where do you want to be? All that sort of stuff. We're all different. There's no right or wrong. Some like being on our own, some like being in groups, inside, outside. We all work in different ways. We all thrive in different contexts. Understanding ourselves is the kind of foundation for any successful career, really, and job hunt. And then layering on top of that or alongside that, you need to understand the conservation industry, okay, or the employment landscape, let's put it that way, the different jobs that are out there, and understanding where your sweet spot might be in order to start becoming fully employable for that specific area. Okay, and that's the logic really that the course is based upon. Understand yourself and the employment landscape, put those two together, okay, to find your niche. Once you've got your niche, we can then figure out what skills, qualifications, experiences you require. Some you might already have, some things, new things you might need to get. What's the best way of getting those things specifically for you, uniquely to you? Okay, and then finally, you need to be putting great applications and delivering great interviews. And you can kind of see then, as I kind of talk through the course structure, how that logic kind of starts to fit together. So the structure is it forms into kind of three modules. Everything kind of comes along in threes. I'm a simple person. I think threes work well for me. The first one is module one, who are you? Okay, and this is the introspection piece. Number two, where are you going? Okay, which job or jobs are right for you? And number three, how are you going to get there? Okay, there's specifics of filling gaps, applications, interviews. Okay, and the rubber hits the road, practical steps of job hunting. Let's talk about those three things then in detail. So number one, who are you? Module one. So in module one, what we do is spend some time really looking inwards to better understand ourselves in order to find and secure the right job for you, whether you're graduating, seeking, or switching into the sector. And we work through 6 really fun, okay, insightful tasks that help you to identify, who you are, what are you great at doing, and what do you love doing. Let's bring those two things together and find that kind of Venn diagram, that piece in the middle where you individually thrive and find career happiness. We want to understand, where do you want to be right now in 5 years' time? What might that career look like before we potentially bias you with all your options? Let's capture what's already in your mind right now and what's exciting you about working within this sector, okay? We want to understand, how do you like to work? I talked a minute ago about some people like to be inside, outside, on our own, in groups, and like to use our hands or our heads. We all have totally different ways in which we perform at our best, okay? And we help you to understand that through some really insightful tests and to draw that out and learn about yourself. And then also we look at things like, what issues or causes do you want to tackle in your career? What makes your blood boil? What causes do you already talk about? What campaigns do you already support? And petitions do you sign? That sort of stuff. That tells you a lot about the sorts of things you might want to be working on as well. What we do is we bring all this together in the form of a career compass, okay, which is there and it's designed to help you make better decisions about which directions to take, whether inside conservation or outside conservation. The ultimate goal is to help you to find the right job for you. And that might be alongside, off to one side to the conservation movement. That's fine. If that's right for you, we want to help you to find that right job, that sweet spot for you. So that's module 1. Who are you? Module 2 is about where are you going? Okay, so in module 2, we look at where you want to go in your careers and do a real deep dive, okay, into the conservation employment landscape, the sector, if you like, the employers and the jobs that are out there. And the goal here is to really help you to refine down your options in order to identify a target job or jobs or niche or whatever you want to call it. Now, from this, we can figure out fairly easily the skills, experiences, and qualifications you need in order to become competitive and employable for that chosen job. So what does it look like then, module 2? Module 2, firstly, it's employer types. So we talk through the 5 main employer types, okay, that we find within the conservation arena, okay. Can I remember them all now? So we're talking about the academic, the public, the private, the charity, and the enterprise sectors. Boom, I remembered all 5, great. Okay, and we talk about the pros and cons of those different employer types, okay, and to help you to understand what's right for you, what's the important thing for you right now when you're considering your next career move. Is it pay? Is it training? Is it flexibility? Is it location? Is it something else, okay? And you can reflect around which employer type might suit you best and your needs right now. Second up, okay, the second part is the job types. I mentioned before, it's a huge, bewildering area, the conservation job arena, if you like. There are more jobs available than ever before. We've listed over 35,000 jobs now on conservation careers to date, with over 20,000 job titles, okay, so different jobs within that. Now, but what we do is we lump it up, okay, we break it down into kind of 15 main areas, the main pillars, the main themes, whatever you want to call them. Quite different jobs, okay, so science and research, marine conservation, project and program management, fundraising, animal welfare, photography and filmmaking, and so on, okay, ecotourism, ecological consultancy, the big areas, and some areas you might not have considered before as kind of forming the basis of wildlife conservation, but these jobs are out there and they really deliver impact and they might be really well suited for you. Helping you to understand the sector, what's it like to do those jobs, what are employers looking for when they're recruiting for those jobs as well. And we help you to understand, well, which ones might you be right for you. From that, we help you to develop a shortlist, to then explore that shortlist. So getting 15 down to maybe 3, 4, 5, okay, and then getting 3, 4, 5 down to hopefully 1 or 2. Okay, we're really trying to get you down to helping to explore and get you down and refine down to this target conservation job. Why is that important? Why do I keep talking about niche or niche if you're here from the US? Why is it important to have that target and that focus at the beginning of a job hunt like this? Well, I think the best way of thinking about it is to think about sort of an analogy of like entering a competitive arena, okay? And a really competitive arena will be something like the Olympics, okay, which is hopefully coming down the road quite soon in Tokyo. Now, at the Tokyo Olympics, there's going to be something in the region of, say, 50 different events, okay? And if a few years ago you wanted to come to Tokyo with the goal of competing and getting a medal, even possibly a gold medal at those Olympics, what strategy could you have deployed in order to come to Tokyo and to try and get a medal? Well, there's two ways of looking at it. One is, let's enter 50 events, okay, to give yourself 50 chances of a medal, right, of a gold medal. In fact, 150 chances if you look at gold and silver as well. Loads of chances within that, right? That's got to be a really good approach. Well, no, no. And the problem with that, and you can probably sort of spot it already, is if you try and spread yourself out too thin, and if you don't have a focus, if you don't train for your event, okay, your chosen job type, is you're always going to be up against someone who has. Someone who's just found that right event for them. So in the Olympics, think about Michael Phelps, and his huge wingspan, okay, and huge feet, massive lung capacity. He's just designed for swimming. He's picked a sport which is just right for him and his physique, okay. He's doubled down on it and become a multiple Olympic champion. And it's very hard to just jump in a pool and kind of compete against him and then go and be a shot putter and then do something else, okay, be a hurdler, whatever. Okay, so generalizing in a competitive field really isn't a very good approach, okay. And the conservation sector is a competitive field, okay. So it's best to try and find your event, find your sweet spot, double down, laser focus, become really good at that, okay. And that gives you by far the best chance of A, finding the right job for you, but B, becoming really good at it as well and becoming really competitive and employable, okay, when you get to applications and interviews. So that's modules 1 and 2. Okay, who are you? Where are you going? The final module is module 3. How are you going to get there? And what we do in this final module is we bring it all together. Okay, and we build a real clear career plan of action for you in order to kind of really get going and to secure your target job. What we do is we look at the job that you want to secure. Okay, we look at your career to date, and then we work through a process of identifying and filling any gaps. You might find employers have sort of 10 requirements for your chosen area. You already have 2 or 3 or 4, whatever, from your career to date or from your university experience, okay? But there's some things you're going to need to fill, okay? So what are those things? Let's get clear about these things, okay, and understand the best way of filling them, getting experience or training or qualifications or whatever it might be. As a special bonus, okay, we also include a couple of other things. We talk about how to craft great applications for conservation or related jobs. Now, we see people all this time that are really well suited to the jobs that they're applying for. They're just not very good at applying for them, okay? And we have a step-by-step program that teaches you 10 steps, okay, follow the steps, and at the end of it, you have a really good application as a result. You have a great CV, resume, cover letter. You can pull together a great application form, okay, that showcases that you can do the job in hand and talks about your successes and experiences to date, okay. So that's one thing. Another kind of bonus that we throw in there too is talk about how to prepare for and deliver great interviews. A little bit like you do, in the written form for applications. It's kind of similar, but different skills needed, in the verbal realm when you're talking to interviews, okay? And also just being able to present well and control your nerves and everything else that kind of comes along with a high pressure situation when you're sat in front of, say, an interview panel or something like that. That can really kind of send you off nerve, right? Well, we talk about how to deliver and prepare great interviews, and that really works. The final piece of the course, the final thing we ask you to do is to finish by making a commitment. Okay, so to turn your plan, you walk away with a clear career plan, but you need to turn that into action and turn that into activity. Okay, so we help you to make those commitments, okay, to share those commitments with the wider group and to really get going and really make sure that you drive it through. Okay, you drive it home. So by the end of the training program, okay, you should be really clear on 3 things, okay, and this is our promises to you. This is what the Kickstarter is here to deliver for you. Number 1, which job or jobs are right for you to focus on, and we know why that's important, right? Number 2, what gaps might you need to fill personally in order to become employable, okay, and competitive? Education, experience, training, whatever they might be. What are they, and how are you going to fill them? And the third thing, is how do you get hired? Okay, so how do you put in great applications and deliver great interviews as well? Ooh, so that's an overview of the course. Okay, I'll hand over to you guys in a second for answering any questions you might have. Okay, so if you've got any questions, you can start putting them in the Q&A section as well. Okay, or in the chat. Ideally, if you can put them in Q&A, that's great. So if you've already put a question in the chat, can you move it over to the Q&A, because that makes my life slightly easier. I can see them all together, and I'll work through and answer those in a minute as well. While you're thinking about any questions you might have, let me just give you a bit of an overview about how the course actually works, because it might also cover some of your questions too. So, well, firstly, how good is it? You're probably thinking, how good is this Kickstarter? You've been talking about it for ages, Nick. How good is it? So we've had over 1,500 Kickstars go through the training program to date, and we've had so many success stories, okay, and of people starting their careers in conservation as a result, you know, and we'll be sharing those by email later in the week as well, because I could talk all evening about them. In the past year, we've also been teaching the program at 40 universities from across the globe, and across all the Kickstarters and all the programs, I am super delighted and proud, to be honest, to say that we've had a 99% satisfaction and a 99% recommendation rate. So people that go through the program, okay, really commit to it, come out the other end incredibly happy, very satisfied, and they would like to see and encourage other people to kind of join that program too. So I think that kind of speaks for itself. If I can maybe tell a couple of quick stories then about people who have gone through the program, I think sort of typify different types of people and the kind of the outcomes that they've had through the program. One that comes to mind really clearly is Killian. So Killian Hughes, gentleman that was at Manchester University. He graduated, so he was a job seeker. Okay, I think he'd been graduated for about 6 months, working in a bar in Manchester to kind of pay the bills and putting in lots of applications to lots of jobs and doing his best. Okay, had all the experience he needed, but wasn't really articulating himself, was spreading himself a little bit too thin. Through the program, he found his niche. He clarified where he wanted to be, where he wanted to go. And as a result of that, he also understood, you know, how to put in really good applications. The applications we were putting in just weren't up to scratch. He didn't really have the skills and the knowledge in order to sit down and really produce a document that helped him to shine. So he doubled down on that. Okay, he found his niche. He became rapidly very good at applications as well. And as a result, after 6 months of putting in dozens and dozens of applications and getting nowhere, within a couple of weeks, he really started to get job offers and interviews as well. He quickly secured one job that really suited him down to the ground and it made him super happy. Okay, so he moved up to the west coast of Scotland. He's working for an organization called Seafari, which do marine conservation and education programs around the west coast. So sea eagles, dolphins, porpoises, all that sort of stuff, all that fun. And he absolutely loved it. He went from working in a bar in Manchester to working in his dream job, in his own words. And that was a direct result of the Kickstarter. So super proud of Killian. That was about 3 years ago. Killian's now moved on again. I heard again recently. He's now working in India, in Goa, studying and helping to conserve snakes and wild otters down in India. And he's now actually teaching the Kickstarter to his interns and vols that go through his programs as well. So he's already like 2 jobs into his career and helping the next cohort to come through. So super proud of Killian and where he is, and excited to see where he goes next, really. Another, I think, good example was a lady called Rosie as well. Rosie was a career switcher. She was working in something very unrelated to wildlife conservation. She's working in the kind of publishing realm. Okay, she did the course. She understood what sort of job she wanted to do. She actually wanted to transfer a lot of her skills within the sector. She realized that within the sector, there were lots of jobs available for people with the sorts of skills that she had within editing and writing and publishing, that sort of realm, communications type skills, which conservation employers are really screaming out for. About 41% of jobs look for communication skills, and she had them, you know, in abundance. So we helped her to understand that. We helped her also to connect with a couple of employers as well. She got some work experience that was really valuable to her. And then very quickly off the back of the course, she got 2 job offers with 2 really big international conservation NGOs. I won't give them their names, but they're big ones. You'll have heard of them. Okay, she chose the one that was right for her, and she's still in that role and still happy there today. So she kind of switched across, transferred across into the sector just through clarifying and helping to articulate her story and also get some really relevant experience. Finally, there's a lady called Louise as well, I remember really well, quite recently, who was kind of looking for civil service jobs here in the UK. And she was looking, and she's been looking to work within conservation within the kind of government sector. Okay, but she'd been struggling. Okay, she'd had repeated failures, you know, across months and months to try and get jobs going. She had good experience as well already, but she wasn't presenting herself very well. So we taught her, you know, find the niche. This is how you apply for the jobs, you know, through this particular method that helps you to kind of get ahead of the crowd in terms of applications. And she immediately got through to interview, and she immediately got hired. So we were super happy. So she went from failure to success straight off the back of the program. She attributes that very much to the Kickstarter. So super proud and pleased for Louise. Now, I can talk about dozens and dozens of different success stories, but hopefully there's something within that might connect with you as well, within Killian, Rosie, and Louise's story. So how does it work? Okay, how does it work? Well, it's the Kickstarter is basically self-paced, so you work entirely at your own pace. Okay, it's videos and a workbook. Okay, so there are I think there are 17 units, so 17 short videos to watch. and associated tasks, which are all within the workbook. Okay, so you watch the video, you understand the task, you then do the task and record it in that workbook, which becomes your career plan. You have a whole year's access to the course. Okay, should you choose to enroll, you also get support from us for the whole year, which I'll tell you about in a second. The total commitment in terms of how long it takes to do, it's about sort of 15 hours on average. Some people do it faster than that. Some people do it slower than that. So it's dependent and individual on you, but the average is about 15 hours. We just encourage do it at a pace that suits you and do it well, okay? Because the logic holds. And if it gets a bit wobbly and you rush through something, then the later modules are also a little bit wobbly, okay? And not quite as solid as they could be. In terms of support, what support do you get? Okay, so you get access to the training and the workbook and everything else, but then you get support to us, okay, from Conservation Careers, me and also my colleagues and staff here. So we do it in three ways. I talked about threes a lot already. So the first way you get support will be through a private Facebook community. So we have a really kind of thriving, not one of those naff Facebook pages where no one says anything and does anything. This is a thriving kind of Facebook community of Kickstarter. So people are going through the program right now, or who have gone through the program in the last few years. Again, about 1,500 students, and Kickstars and professionals now within that. So it's a great networking alumni to be part of, to be asking questions of, to be sharing your advice, getting support from other students and getting support from us as well. So if you've got a question, you kind of want to bounce it off, or you want to share something with the group, share your success or challenge, we're there for you. There's a community there for you to support you. You're not alone, okay? You also get support by email, because you've got a question, you want to ask a question of me directly or my colleagues, you're very welcome to drop a line and we respond as quick as we can to our Kickstars. Okay, so you've got something you want to ask, directly and personally, or you don't want to share more publicly for whatever reason, that's absolutely fine. You can come to us directly, that's fine. And we also do these live monthly Zooms as well. We do Zoom Q&As for our Kickstars once a month, an hour long. Okay, I turn up, Christy's there as well, our head of engagement, and anyone who's going for the course can just jump in, talk to us, ask questions, share your experience, get our support, okay, on a kind of almost one-to-one basis. We're here, we're live, okay, and we'll talk to you directly through that. So Facebook group, email, and also our live Q&A sessions. Now, alongside the course, you also get access to the Conservation Career Academy, which is basically, full access to the website and everything we can kind of offer you. So you get, up to, over 12,000 opportunities of employment, so jobs, experiences, and training as well through the site. So you can really make the most of that for a whole year. So not only can you kind of navigate your options, understand how to get ahead, we also provide you access to all the jobs as well that we can find within the sector. So we kind of put it all together for you. We provide a rock solid guarantee. Okay, so if you can try it for 14 days, if you're not happy for whatever reason, no questions asked, we will refund you 100% of the money. So we see this as a kind of a no risk thing. And we really mean that. Any problems at all, money back, no problem at all, no questions asked. When you go through the course, if you complete the course, okay, final module, complete our final feedback form, super simple. What do you like? What don't you like? It's as simple as that. Okay, everyone who completes gets a certificate of completion, which you can obviously showcase on your CV to prospective employers, showing your commitment to the sector as well, and something to kind of keep on record. Right, okay, well, I think it's probably time to go around to questions. Well, actually, maybe before we do, you might be wondering, well, how much does it cost? I've not talked about money yet. That's important, right? Okay, well, the regular cost of the course is £295. Dollars, it's 395, and euros, it's 350. Okay, but at the moment, we've got it as a reduced discounted rate until Sunday. So you got 33% off until Sunday. Okay, so you got about 4 days left, something like that. So that makes it right now £195, okay, $265 or 230 euros. Okay, so 33% off until Sunday at midnight. At that point, after that point, the price will jump back up to its regular price. So if you're really interested, it's a good time to kind of join and kind of form part of this green recovery. You can kind of gain access to the course. If you've been receiving emails about it, you can obviously click a link from there. Otherwise, conservationcareers.com/kick33. Okay, so our website /kick33 would get you through to the discounted enrollment page. Whew, right, that's enough, more than enough talking from me. I hope that delivered a lot of what you were looking for from this evening in terms of understanding more about the course. I'm going to hand over to you guys now, okay, to answer any questions you might have. I can see there's a bunch of kind of chats there as well, and also the Q&As. I'm going to go to the Q&As, okay, and I'll work through them. Okay, so if your question isn't in the Q&A, feel free to kind of put it across, okay, and answer that. I'll also take a quick sip if I can. So, Diksha, thank you. And also, if I can ask you to kind of keep your questions fairly short. It looks like they are already, but sometimes we get super long ones, and it takes me just to read them. But that's not fine. Hi, I don't think I'm able to hear the presenter. Okay, I'm sorry about that. That was one of the first ones, wasn't it? Okay, so that's because my mic wasn't turned on at the beginning, or actually it kind of cut itself out. So I apologize for that. Hopefully you've reconnected and you can hear us nice and clearly now. Next one up, Sia Themba. Thank you, Sia Themba, for your question. And what are the requirements for me to be employed in the UK while having a diploma in nature conservation? You completed in the Republic of South Africa. So you're down in South Africa right now. So requirements for you to be employed in the UK, obviously that needs to look at kind of UK visa laws and everything between our two countries. So I can't talk specifically about immigration laws, okay? But what can I say about the employment landscape in the UK more generally, okay? And conservation is kind of moving around the globe. Well, the landscape here in the UK is very good. Okay, there are more jobs available than ever before, and they are growing. There's a big conservation movement here. It is competitive. Okay, there are lots of good people looking for good jobs as well. So being really competitive and employable is super important. Okay, for everyone in the sector, you need to kind of bear that in mind. Conservationists do kind of move around as well. We are quite an international bunch. You know, travel is not unusual. Employers will seek to recruit the best staff going, and if they can recruit from a good member of staff from overseas, okay, and the visa laws allow that between those two countries, then that wouldn't be unusual. Okay, so I wouldn't seek to put you off, but you would need to look at visa laws, okay, and you would need to be really good and competitive and employable for the jobs that you're looking for. But there is a buoyant market over here for people like you. There are also jobs, you know, within South Africa too. Maybe it's worth kind of talking about that. You know, we've got lots of, you know, friends and organizations that work down there. I'm thinking like BirdLife South Africa is a really great employer organization. There's a great network called Green Matters, which we're quite close to nowadays. You might want to look at Green Matters fellows and fellowships, supporting the kind of conservationists of the future. There's lots of other networks down within the country as well. So happily look overseas, see what the options are, but don't overlook your own country, okay, that needs really good people like you as well, kind of working within it. Thank you so much for your question. That's wonderful. Right. Danielle as well. Would you say, Daniel Williams, would you say that this program can be helpful for students who have a year or two of university left? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're a student, you know, what we always encourage people to do is to kind of start as soon as possible, start as early as you can. Why is that important? What we see is if you leave it right to the end, what the course does is it provides you with a clear career plan and tells you what you need to do now in order to become fully employable for your area. Now, whilst you're at university, you have time and opportunity to address some of those gaps that you might find. Okay, so you can be doing some particular volunteering alongside your studies, perhaps in the evenings, weekends, or during your holiday period. You might be able to take some particular courses, whether they be online or in person, things beyond your studies that employers are looking for. And there's no better time to do that than whilst at university. If you left that right to the end of your final year, or when you're just graduated and moving, you know, into job seeking, you're going to need to do that, you know, at the same time as job seeking and at the same time as perhaps working another job like Killian in the pub or something like that. Best to do it earlier and best to do it as soon as you can. And whilst you're at university, there's no better time to be doing it. So in short, yes, but great question. Yeah, thank you so much. Colin, as a potential career switcher that works and has an educational background that does not have anything to do with conservation, okay, would this program's training and education opportunities help to make up the fact that you do not have a traditional education that conservation employees are looking for? Yeah, thank you. And that probably relates, I think, to a lot of the switchers also that are kind of on the line tonight thinking, well, I don't have a background in this. How will this course allow me to kind of transition across within the sector? Okay, and there's a couple of parts to that answer, really. Firstly, there's two ways to transition, two ways to switch. Okay, one is a bit like we talked about earlier with Rosie, who was the publisher who transitioned across within communications. That's a kind of like sideways transition. So understanding your background, what your skills are, what the sector's looking for, and how you might be able to transfer as much of that as possible across and make that transition as lateral and as quick as possible. Now, conservation education is one of the 15 areas that we talk about in detail, okay? So educators, you know, are sought within the sector. There are jobs specifically around education, environmental education, and so on. So if that's of interest to you, you might be able to find you can transfer across. part of your challenge then is to kind of help to tell your story, your narrative as to why you're transitioning and perhaps why the sector's interesting to you, and present yourself really well in terms of your application and also your interview to kind of to address that and kind of show that you're really well aligned and you're kind of passionate about the movement. And we can teach you how to do that. And in terms of how to do that within an application as well, we talk about 3 different types of applications that suit 3 different types of people. Okay, the typical CV, for instance, is like chronological, just in terms of day. I did this job and this job and so on and so forth. But that doesn't really work well for switchers and transitioners like yourself. It doesn't present you in the best light to show to an employer that you can kind of do their job well. A better way of doing it is something called a hybrid or a functional type of CV. And we'll talk about more of this in the course, obviously, but it's really about presenting the kind of the main activities that the employer is looking for and everything from your background that relates to each one of those. Okay, so if an employer is doing education, maybe doing training workshops or lectures or whatever it might be, then you break down what training workshops have you done, what were the outcomes, what were the lectures you've given, okay, that relate to this and what were the outcomes, and so on. Okay, so present yourself in the best light. So that's one way of doing it, transition across and also present yourself in the best light. The other way of transitioning is to kind of just to kind of say, look, I've been doing a job. I don't like the job I've been doing for whatever reason. I actually want to do this quite different job in nature conservation. And rather than transitioning across, it's almost retraining. Now, there will be some bits within that are transferable, okay? But a lot of that might be retraining and just reorienting yourself, okay? So that'll require a kind of slower progress, okay? Because you'll need to kind of fill more gaps, and it might require a kind of more drop and then a work back up, okay, within the movement rather than transfer across. So it depends which type of switcher you are, okay, and how quick you want to move and how many of the skills that you currently have you want to transfer in. But I hope that answered some of those questions. So thank you. Gareth, I'll answer live as well. There you go. A lot of job applications require a personal specification to demonstrate that you are the ideal candidate for the role. Okay, many require the STAR approach. Okay, absolutely. Scenario, task, action, result, or situation, task, action, response. Yeah, same thing. Can conservation careers help with reviewing this type of application, providing feedback and tips to strengthen the application? So yes, I mean, and actually that is a really good kind of framework. Okay, so what does that mean? If people are on the call, they don't know what this STAR thing is. Okay, STAR is just a way of talking about your experiences to date and presenting to an employer that you have done and can do the task that they're looking for. Okay, so what would be an example of that? Can I even think of a good one? Okay, so let's say you're going for a conservation education training and you need to be delivering workshops for young people, something like that. Tell me about a time when you've delivered, conservation training workshops to young people or related, so those situations, you say, well, whilst I was at university, I volunteered for a wildlife conservation trust, okay, delivering workshops, okay. So the task I had to do was to deliver 3 workshops a week to groups of 5-year-olds, whatever it might be. So that's situation and task. So the action was, what did I do? Well, I developed the training materials, I welcomed the students, I did the training, whatever it might be. And the result of that was we got great positive feedback, and bookings were up and all that sort of stuff. So it kind of gives you a framework about talking about your experience. A simpler way of thinking about it is like a story, okay? So beginning, middle, and end, okay? So, I was here, I did this, and as a result, that happened. The piece that's often missing was the result. As a result, that happened. You can say I did 12 training courses or whatever. So what? What was the outcome of that? Did you get any good feedback? Okay. Did the program thrive? Did people who did the course go off and do something? Okay. It's the outcomes that employers really remember. And in your case, it's result or response, in that STAR thing. So that's a really good framework. We do talk about that specifically in the course. We do recommend using that framework. So I'm glad you know about it, Garth. Garth. Can we help you specifically? So the course teaches you how to do it, okay? And we provide support through the Facebook, okay, the email, and also the Q&As. If you want our eyes specifically on yours one-to-one and to look at it properly, it takes probably an hour or 2 of our time, okay, to review an application in detail. So what we need to do for that is we need to look at the application that you're applying for, okay, so the job spec, understand that in detail. We need to look at your application, whatever's within that. It could be a cover letter and CV or an application form. We need to relate the 2 together and then provide feedback to you. That takes about a couple of hours, okay? So we don't typically do that within the course, that kind of one-to-one deep dive, deep feedback. Okay, if you do want that, you can gain access to that just as part of our one-to-one support services. We do offer that. As a kickstart, you do get discounted access to that. Okay, so if you want your application reviewing personally by us, you'll get, I think it's 10% off. Okay, as a kickstart. Okay, so that's available, but we don't kind of hard bake that in. We just can't support this many students with kind of 2-3 hour reviews for every application that comes through. And I hope you understand that, but it is an option there as well if you want that to do that as an additional option. Thank you, Garth, and not Gareth. Thank you, Garth. And Diksha, thank you, and you're welcome back. You can hear me now, which is always good. Are there physical conservation careers? For example, being able to work directly in the biome settings, what kind of background would it require? So if I'm reading this correctly, your question is about, are there careers where you physically get out, into the natural environment, okay, and use, and it's not just a desk-based role. That's what I'm reading here. If I've got that wrong, feel free to ask a follow-up question, okay? The answer to that is yes. Okay, so if being outside is really important to you, okay, and you want to kind of use your physicality and get your hands dirty, there are lots of jobs available to conservationists. Ones that jump to mind, okay, classically would be wardens, rangers, okay, countryside managers. There's also ecological consultants, all get paid to go out into the field and look at sites, habitat, species, and help to manage them. But also like research and science. Okay, so if you're part of, a research or a science study, which involves, studying species out in the natural habitat, then typically you've got to get out there and spend time in the field and do that. Okay, so those roles are there as well. But it's kind of like almost like it's hinted at by the question, lots of roles are not just field-based roles as well. Lots of roles actually sat behind desks, okay, or going to meetings, policy and advocacy. There's lots of roles where, program and project management, fundraising, marketing and communications, these are largely desk-based jobs. So if that sort of suits you as well, the movement requires people doing those sorts of jobs as well. So there's kind of something for everyone within the sector, which is all part of the fun, okay. Right, okay, well, we're probably up on time. And also, I don't see any more questions in the Q&A. So once again, thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you for sharing your time and your energy with us. And if it's lunchtime for you or whatever time it is, you are more than welcome. Just remember, so you have a special discount, okay? It's 33% off until Sunday, okay? So you've got about 4 days and a little bit left to enroll. So if you do want to enroll, you want to find out more, you can go to conservationcareers.com/kick33. Just put kick33 onto the end and it'll take you through to the page where you can find out all these details and more, and you can also choose to enroll as well. We'll be sending you a few more emails as well. You can also re-watch this tomorrow or another day if you want to hear about it again. That's enough from me. Stay safe, stay well, everyone. Thank you again for your time, energy, and commitment. Okay, and I hope to see you as part of the course before too long. Okay, take care, everyone. All the best. Thank you.